Okay, thank you very much. Thank you everybody for coming today for today's webinar. And so, welcome to our webinar. And our special guest today is Malcolm Mann. He's well known here in Ukraine due to his well-known exam preparation courses for students, for pupils uh, get to 100. He is a co-author, and this book is a bestseller in Ukraine, Lazy and Destination. And he's the author of a new exam preparation course, Optimise. Malcolm visited Ukraine several times, and he is a great presenter as well. So we are happy to greet him today. He is somewhere here with us. And thank you, Malcolm, for agreeing to organize this webinar special for Ukrainian teachers. Are you here?
Hello, hello, hello. I
Hello, we
am
are
here.
receiving. Yeah, and we can. So I'm giving
You
you
were very, very quiet. I could hardly hear you. Can everyone hear me okay? Can you
maybe
see
it's
me? Can you hear me? If you can you type yes into the chat box?
okay. You are welcome. Thank you.
Fantastic. A few people saying, can you make the sound louder? Oh, now the sound's okay. Okay, brilliant. Perfect, perfect. Right, hello everybody. Hello from a very cold, rainy, grey, miserable Athens in Greece. I hope the weather is better where you are. Thank you all very, very much for coming. I can see we've got more than 120 people here so far, which is fantastic. From all over Ukraine, it looks like. So hello to you wherever you're from, wherever you are right now. In this session, we're talking about optimizing exam preparation classes through personalization. It's going to last about, I guess, 45 minutes, something like that. Please don't feel you have to take lots of notes. At the end of the session, we'll make sure you get a PDF of all of the slides from the webinar, so you don't need to write lots of things down. I'd like to start just quickly looking at the blurb. You may well have seen this text already. This is the text that we used to advertise and promote the event. And I just want to go through it with you fairly quickly. Preparing teenagers for exams can be soulless and dry at times. Would you agree that that's true? Just type yes or no quickly into the chat box. Right, I'm seeing lots of yeses. Brilliant. Of course, it's not brilliant that preparing teenagers for exams can be soulless and dry. That's not brilliant at all. But it's brilliant that actually we're talking about something that we all agree is a problem. And the tasks we get our students to do can be divorced from their lives and personal experience. I think this is definitely true, isn't it? In the classroom, we're getting our students to do things like multiple choice tasks and gap fill tasks, those kind of things. They don't do anything like that in their real lives outside of the classroom. There are a few parts of exams which are a little bit closer to real life in that we pretend that they are real life. For example, with writing, we have these tasks that look like they're real life. You're going to enter a short story competition, or you're going to write an article for an international young persons magazine. Now that sounds real life. How many of your students write short stories for short story competitions? Any of them? Just type into the chat box if they do. Do any of your students write? Do they really? No. Oh, well, Galina, well done. Julia says no. I think very few students in real life write articles for young people's magazines and short stories for short story competitions. If your students do, that's fantastic, but I don't think many students do. So in this session, we're going to look at how to bring in an element of student-centered personalization to exam classes to aid interest and motivation. So this word personalization. It's a weird word, isn't it? It's actually not that easy to say because it's a very long, I stumble over it, personalization. Obviously, we have the noun person, and from that we have the adjective personal, and then we can make a noun from that personality, and we can make a verb from that personalize. The spelling's interesting because in American English they would probably always spell it with a Z. In British English, some people spell it with an S, some people spell it with a Z. I think throughout this presentation, I probably used both spellings. I haven't been consistent. And so from that verb to personalize, we then have a noun, personalization. The Macmillan Dictionary defines the verb to personalize as to make or change something so that it is especially suitable for a particular person. And they say that there is the synonym, customize. Now, just for the moment, let's forget about English language teaching, forget about our students in classrooms, and think about the real world. In the real world, what do people personalize? Now, if we put personalize or personalization into Google and then click on images, what kind of things come up? Well, we get things like this. Wedding invitations. You can personalize a wedding invitation. You can choose your font, you can choose your template, you can choose the wording, you can choose how it looks. You can make it look right for you and for your event. Of course, you can personalize things like your computer desktop. And you can have a screensaver that's a photo of your family or your favorite pet or whatever it is. Lots of personalization of clothes. You can put wording on, you can put pictures on. Strangely, interestingly, personalization of furniture. So you take a bit of furniture and you make it your own. Maybe you paint it the colors that you like, or like in this particular example, you put amusing text on it. More personalization of clothes. Lots and lots of personalization of clothes. You could have a personalized mug with a picture of your favorite pop star and your own personal message. Personalized jewelry, very, very popular. Even something like how you have your coffee, whether you have milk in it, whether you have sugar in it, that's personalization. My absolute favorite of all the images that I found online, a personalized Father Christmas cat bowl, where you can put the name of your cat and give this to your cat for Christmas. A wonderful example, I think, of personalization. So making or changing something so that it's especially suitable for a particular person. Now, of course, there are lots of different ways in which we can do this. There is a choice of different options, different positions, different colors, whatever it is. Might be a choice of time. Coming back to education for a second, in terms of exams, we might give students with dyslexia more time to do an exam. We're personalizing the exam for their particular needs. Might be to do with money. If you've got more money, you've got more options for personalization. Might be to do with style or fashion or appearance, or just how something looks. Changing your furniture, as we said, so that it's a color that you like. Your needs, your requirements, your abilities, your preferences, likes, dislikes, your opinions, beliefs, all of these things can determine how you personalize something. Even your geography and your location, particularly perhaps in terms of weather and the climate, can affect how you decide to personalize something. However you personalize something, the idea is to make it more appropriate, to give you a better experience, to give you better results, to give you greater satisfaction. So let's come back now to think about our profession, English language teaching, and the ELT classroom. Making or changing something so that it's suitable for a particular person. Now, if we're going to be doing that, I think we need to be clear what we're personalizing, who we're personalizing it for, who's doing it, because that might not be the same person, how they're doing it, and why they're doing it. And of course, probably the first thing we're going to think is, how can we do that within our education system? Because in many ways, our education system isn't really set up for personalization. There are all sorts of factors within our system that restrict personalization. It could be the arrangement of desks in a classroom restricts the things that you can do. Of course, if we're using course books, that can restrict the things that we can do in the classroom. If we've got a syllabus that we have to stick to, that's a major restriction. If we're working towards exams, that's our priority. So that really restricts the kind of things that we can do. The school timetable is another restriction. There are all sorts of restrictions placed upon us and placed upon our students. So clearly, I think personalization in our classrooms is not easy, but that doesn't mean there aren't things that we can do. I really believe there are easy and practical and effective things that we can do. I think with personalization, we need to be really, really clear who's doing it. Because if we are teaching teenagers, and I'm particularly thinking about teenagers today, if we're teaching teenagers, particularly if we're preparing them for exams, then the teacher very much has to stay in control. I'm not going to suggest anything today where the teacher gives control to the students. I don't think that's possible. The teacher has to stay in control, particularly in terms of we've got a syllabus, we're working towards exams, the teacher knows what is best. So the personalization has to be teacher driven. In other words, the teacher is deciding at every moment what is happening, but it's student centered. The aim is that we're personalizing the student's experience with the teacher staying in control. And I think there are two main kinds of personalization, and I want to look at both kinds in this webinar today. So the first kind is personalization that's provided by published materials, by the course book, for example. And then after we've looked at that, we'll come on to think about personalization that you as the teacher can create that's supplementary to the course book. Those people who've just joined, by the way, I see quite a lot of people have joined since we started. Don't feel you have to take lots of notes. We'll send you a PDF at the end of this with all of the slides from the presentation, from the webinar. So you don't need to write lots of things down. So the first kind of personalization I want to look at today is personalization provided within published materials. So within, in this case, an exam-based course. Now, some of you, those who have used laser in the past, might recognize this. This is a little thing called Have Your Say. And this one says, at what age do you think teenagers should be allowed to go on holiday with their friends? Why? Now, Have Your Say was throughout laser, and teachers really, really liked it. There were lots of positives, plus points to this little Have Your Say feature. It was very quick. It only took a few minutes of classroom time to do the task. There was no planning. The teacher didn't have to spend hours planning this task. You could just go into class and do it. It was very simple. It's provided there on the page in the student's book. It allows the students to express their own opinions and relate what they've read or what they've heard, because it was in the reading sections and the listening sections of laser. It allowed them to relate what they've read and what they've heard to their own experience. And students could practice speaking when doing the reading page or the reading spread or the listening page. So there were lots and lots of plus points to have your say, and teachers really liked it. But there were some drawbacks as well. First of all, it only focused on speaking. There was no writing, for example. There was actually a very limited range of tasks and a very limited focus. Almost all of the tasks were asking students to express their opinion and express their preference. And it was only in the reading sections and the listening sections. It wasn't in any other sections in the unit. And so when we began to plan Optimise, which in some ways is a replacement to laser, not completely, but in some ways it's a replacement to laser. When we were planning Optimise, we wanted to keep all of the good things about Have Your Say, but try to deal with some of the drawbacks. So we decided to expand it, not just have it in the reading and listening sections, but have it in sections throughout the unit. To have speaking within it, but not just focus on speaking, to have writing, for example, as well, to have an increased range of tasks and an increased focus, not just solely focusing on opinion and preference. So in other words, to be much more systematic, much more planned, and much more integrated into the course. So as I said, not just expressing opinion and preference. Now, of course, those are very, very important. So in Optimise, we continue to encourage students to express opinion and express preference, but also to focus on critical thinking skills, to focus on reflecting, getting the students to reflect, particularly in terms of reflecting on their own learning, whether that's how they learn English or how they learn other subjects at other schools. To do research, whether that's research online or research by doing surveys and interviewing people, maybe in the classroom or at home, or research by the old-fashioned way, by using books, for example. To do writing, not just to do speaking. To be able to present, a very, very important 21st century life skill, to be able to stand at the front of the class, for example, and present information to the students, and to be able to have a discussion with the other students about a topic. So a much greater focus than we had in laser. And so for Optimise, we did a lot of thinking about this, and we, in the end, came up with 5 main categories, different categories that we should focus on when we focus on one category in each place. I'll give you an example in a second, but these categories are think, research, culture, learn, and me. Now, for think, what we are doing is encouraging students to express opinion, to express preference, and also to do critical thinking, to use their critical thinking skills and to understand what critical thinking is. The category of research is all about finding information. And as I say, that might be online, but it might not be online. It might be by doing class surveys, interviews of friends or family members, or the old-fashioned way, as I say, looking at books. Culture focuses on the student's own culture, their own language, their own country, their own local area, their own geography, all of those kind of things. Learn, this is the reflection one. This is reflecting on how they learn and study. And as I say, that's how they learn and study English, but also other subjects. And then me, this is all about them, their personal life, their daily life, their family, their friends, their hobbies, their interests, their routines, everything that's to do with their daily lives. So that's the 5 categories. This is a typical reading spread from Optimise. This particular text, I know you can't see it very well, it doesn't matter. This particular reading text is all about science fact or science fiction. These are, we call them in English, as you know, old wives' tales, sayings. Things like, don't go swimming for 45 minutes or an hour after you've eaten. Some of them are true and some of them are not true. So we have the text and we do all the work on the reading text. And then you can just see right at the bottom of the page, we've got this feature and it looks like this. And there are our 5 categories. So think, research, culture, learn, and me. And one of them is highlighted because we only focus on one category at any one time. So this particular one, culture. What old wives' tales and sayings, similar to the ones in the article, do you have in your own culture and your own language? So it's tying in all the things they've read about in the reading text with their own culture and their own language. It's personalizing it. Now, here's another example. Can you think of a time when friends of yours argued? Work in pairs. Describe what happened. Say what caused the argument, what happened as a result, how the argument ended. Now, what category do you think that is? Is that think, research, culture, learn, or me? And this is an easy one to start with. It's not a trick question. What do you think? Just type it into the chat box. Okay, lots of you are saying me. Yes, I agree. It could be think. These categories are not always mutually exclusive, but this is about them. It's about their own friends, their own experience of when their own friends argued. So I think me is the right category here. Here's another one. I'm not going to read this out. Read this to yourselves. And then the question is it think, research, culture, learn, or me? Some people saying research, interesting. Some people saying think, some people saying learn, some people saying me, think and research. That's now, it could be more than one, I quite agree. And clearly in this one, they do have to do some thinking. But they're thinking about something quite specific, aren't they? They're thinking about the best way of approaching a task. Now, what kind of task is it? It's actually an exam task, isn't it? Or a task that they do in the classroom. So this is actually, they're not looking online to research something. What they're doing is thinking about the best way to do an exam task or a task in a course book. They're reflecting on how they learn, on how they should study. So this one, I think, exactly is learn. Yeah. Let's move on to the next one. What's this one, do you think? I'm sure there are. Yes. Okay, absolutely. Yeah. This one is culture, because it's about the students' own culture, their own country, their own language, all those kind of things. And myths and stories, cities in their own country, that's their wider culture that they personally live in. How about this one? I won't read it out. Read it to yourselves. What do you think this one is? Yep, research, the second one, because they have to go online and find out information. And what about this one? Just wait for a few more people. Right, the third one, culture. Yes, I don't think it's learn. This is culture. Now, it's about the X factor, which is, or shows like it in your country. So that's popular culture, not high culture, but popular culture is still culture. And this is writing, not talking, but that doesn't matter. It's still focusing on the student's own culture. What about this one? Now, once again, it could be more than one of them, but try and choose just one of them. Now, those people saying me, of course, it is about them. It's about their opinion, but it's not really about their daily lives. So yes, I think, and it is culture because it's about musician and band. So it's connected to me, it's connected to culture, but actually, really, I think the closest one, you're right, is think. It's think, because they've got to think of who they would choose and they've got to think of what they want to ask. But of course, as I say, these are not all completely mutually exclusive. So that's personalization within an exam course. I want to move on now to thinking about the other kind of personalization, which is consolidating and extending an exam-based course or other exam practice material, whether that's just practice tests or a grammar book or a vocabulary book or whatever it is. Now, as we said, um, one of the problems that we face preparing students for exams, that exam practice material is very soulless and dry and boring sometimes, let's be honest. And it can be very divorced from our students' own lives. The tasks that we're getting them to do, multiple choice, gap fill, even writing things like short stories, as we said, are things that in their real lives, they're not really doing outside of the classroom. So I think the solution is, as much as we can, whatever we're doing, and of course, we have to do this exam practice material. We have to prepare our students so that when they go into an exam, they are very, very comfortable with the kind of tasks that they will face under exam conditions. We have to do those. We can't just ignore them. But as well as doing them, the more we can relate them back to our students' own lives and back to their own interests and experience, I think the better. And I think actually the simplest way and a very effective way is to use the same ideas that we were just talking about from Optimise. We can adapt them for any kind of material, even if it's straight exam practice material. So here we've got just an exam practice task. It doesn't really matter what it is, but this particular one, it's a word formation task. It's from First for Schools, but that doesn't really matter. And it's about the topic of playing chess. Now, the idea is, as I said, our students have to do this task. We can't ignore it. We need them to do it, and partly to develop their word formation skills, and partly to develop their exam skills so they know exactly what they're going to face in the exam. We have to do this task, but what we can do either before this task or after this task, it's a choice, is have some kind of personalization task. And if we're going to use this idea from Optimise, we need to think, is it going to focus on think? Is it going to focus on research? Is it going to focus on culture? Is it going to focus on learn? Or is it going to focus on me? And it could be any of them. And if it's any of them, is it going to be expressing opinion, expressing preference, critical thinking, reflection, research, writing, presentation, discussion, or a combination? There's all sorts of things that we might want to focus on. And as I say, it might be before the task or after the task. So what I'd like you to do, take 20 to 30 seconds. We've got this task all about playing chess. And what I'd like you to do, I'd like you to come up with a short personalization task for your students. And I want you to think about three things. Is it before they do the exam task, or is it after? Is it think, research, culture, learn, or mean? And whichever one of those it is it expressing opinion, reflection, research, or writing, etc.? And then note down very quickly in the chat box what the students actually do in the task. So do that as quickly as you can and type your ideas into the chat box. And while you're doing that, I'm going to have a sip of water. Okay, try and give me a bit more information about what the students actually have to do and whether it comes before or after the exam task. Okay, can anyone actually come up with, okay, you do one before and after, brilliant. Okay, if it's critical thinking, what do you want them to do? We're going to try and relate it to chess in some way, but personalize it for our students. Those people saying think, what would you like the students to think about? Try and give me a little bit more information. For example, you might want them to research famous Ukrainian chess players. That's just one example. Can anyone try and give me a little bit more detail? I'm just waiting for a few more comments. Who taught you to play chess? Brilliant. To know or to learn more about playing chess. Right, fantastic. To research the rules of playing chess if you don't know them already. To go online, find the rules, or ask a member of the family who knows the rules. I'll just wait for personal life experience about playing chess. Yes. Do you play chess? Who do you play chess with? Okay. The history of chess. Excellent. Right. Very good. I'll just wait for a couple more and then we'll move on. Think about other games. Right. Absolutely. We don't have to stick with chess. We could move on to other games. That's very good. To think before doing research, researching some details concerning chess playing. A story, excellent, about the invention of old games. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. On that note, because I think that's really good, I'll do a survey in class about table games. Yes, fantastic. Board games, I think we tend to call them, but yes, absolutely. Some of these do need some preparation. Okay, we're going to move on. Some guiding principles of personalized consolidating. As we said, one of the problems is that most exam tasks are divorced from the students' own lives. The things that they ask them to do in exams are not usually things that they do outside of the classroom. So a solution, of course, we have to do these exam tasks. As I say, we can't not do them, but to also connect it to the exam tasks, introduce tasks and text types that the students can relate to. So, for example, in many exams, the students have to write an article for a young person's magazine. Now, in their real lives, as we said, most of them, even though we pretend that they do, they probably don't actually write articles. But there's something very similar in their real lives that many of them do write. Doesn't matter what language it's in. It may not be in English, but that doesn't matter at all. But they are often writing on social media. They are posting on Facebook and other social media sites all the time. And they are writing comments all the time based on what other people have posted on social media. And interestingly, that as a register, as a level of formality, is very, very similar to an article for a young person's magazine. So in the preparation stages, we are going to get them to write their article because they have to do that in the exam. But in the preparation stages for the article, the brainstorming session, for example, we can forget that it's an article and make it a social media post. So they each write a social media post. And if you're using things like Facebook in the classroom, that's fine. You can do this online. I know lots of classrooms aren't set up for that. If you're not, that's also fine. Do it on paper, pretend it's a social media post, and then they share them with the other students. They pass them out to other students, and everyone has to write a comment underneath, agreeing, disagreeing, adding more information, as if it was comments underneath a blog post. And then we can use all of those ideas, put them together, to actually write the article. With a speaking task, a lot of exams have a problem-solving task, where the two candidates are given a problem. For example, your teacher is leaving and you want to buy them a leaving present. In real life, are two students going to sit down and discuss that? Probably not. They're more likely to send each other text messages or communicate on WhatsApp. But that's fine. That's just like speaking in many, many ways. So in the preparation task for the actual speaking task, let's make it a text message thread. And if they've got mobile phones, brilliant, they can use them. If they've got WhatsApp, fantastic. If not, we can just pretend with a piece of paper. We can pretend it's text messages, and they each write a message and then pass them around the class. And that ties it in with their real life. And then once again, that's very useful for coming up with ideas. We've done the brainstorming, we've come up with ideas using this concept of text messaging or WhatsApp, and then we do the actual exam task, the speaking task. Another interesting thing about exams, it's 2019 and still exams pretty much have no video at all. Whereas in the real world, of course, video is absolutely everywhere. And a lot of what our students are seeing on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is, contains video. So the more that we can introduce some kind of video into what we're doing in the classroom, the more real world it feels. And of course, there are two kinds of video and audio. There's a lot of audio in social media as well in the real world. There's third-party generated video and audio. And by third party, all I mean is someone's already produced it. So it might be a link to a video on YouTube. But of course, there's also student-generated video and audio using the student's own smartphone and tablet. And we do live in a wonderful moment in terms of technology where this is now so easy to do. All our students have access, basically, I think, to a smartphone or a tablet. And if they do, they can make a video. They can make an audio file. It's so easy. So I think we should really encourage them to do that. In terms of the third-party generated video audio that someone else has produced, a link to a YouTube video, I've just got a few examples here, but the list is endless. On YouTube, there are thousands and thousands of quiz shows and game shows in English. And these are fabulous. I've noted down here The Chase, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. One I should have put here, but I forgot. So do make a note of this. If you're doing things like idioms and collocations and metaphor, anything like that, all of those kinds of vocabulary with your students, there's a wonderful quiz show called Catchphrase. Catchphrase, CATCHPHRASE. There are hundreds of episodes on YouTube, and they're full of little animations and the contestants have to guess what the catchphrase is, what the idiom is, what the collocation is. So they're brilliant. But it could be a karaoke version of a song. It could be a very short clip, just providing an example of the vocabulary you've been doing in class, the grammar you've been doing in class, the pronunciation that you've been doing in class, whatever it is. In terms of student-generated content using a smartphone or a tablet, just a simple interview with a family member or a friend who speaks English. Maybe they are, for example, a bike mechanic. So you interview them about how to mend a puncture on your bike. Or 2 or 3 students get together and make a short play or a little documentary about their town. Just in your bedroom, in the student's bedroom or in their living room, the student can make a video blog or a video diary, just a few minutes in English, or an instructional video if they love bikes and they know how to change to mend a puncture. Wonderful for using things like the imperative and phrases like you should, or don't do this, or why don't you do this, about their hobby or their sport or whatever it is. Or just a very simple recording focusing on a pronunciation point that you focused on in class, or a grammar point, or a song, or whatever it is. As we said, exams are very much still a paper world. There's basically one exception, which is students have to write an email, but apart from that, everything else is paper. And of course, as we said, the real world, there is a major these days digital online aspect. Our students in their real lives outside of the classroom are doing things digitally. They're doing things online. So the more that we can bring that into the classroom, or those ideas, bring them into the classroom, the better. We've talked about social media posts and comments already. We've talked about messaging already. We've mentioned links, YouTube links, but there are lots of other kind of links. JPEGs, GIFs, emoticons, emojis, screenshots, video and audio files, apps, websites. The more we can bring these in, the better. Just something very, very simple. You've done in your grammar book and in your course book, the grammar of comparatives and superlatives. And of course, that's been mainly written exercises. It might have been some spoken exercises as well, but it doesn't really relate probably to the students' own lives, the students' own culture, the students' lives outside of the classroom. So how can we do that? Something very simple. At home, as long as they have access to a computer, they go online, they go to amazon.co.uk, they go to an online store in Ukraine, and they compare the prices and the products. And they find one product, for example, that's on both, and they see where it's cheaper and where it's more expensive. Or they have 3 sites, and they find which has the most expensive. Brilliant for comparatives and superlatives, and you can use it for lots of other. Amazon is not free. Amazon.co.uk is a website that's totally free. You don't have to spend any money just to have a look. So very, very simple, very effective. It just ties it in with the real world. Now, rhetorical question. What is this? You don't need to answer because you can see it's a jigsaw. But it's not just any old jigsaw. It's an online jigsaw. And it's not just any old online jigsaw. It's an online jigsaw with text. And it's not just any old online jigsaw with text. It's an online jigsaw with text that I created. There are lots of jigsaw websites that are free where you can create your own jigsaws. I'll give you a link in the PDF so you can go online and see this jigsaw for yourself. It's actually very simple. You produce some text in, let's say, a Word document, a nice big font, and you take a screenshot of that Word document. So you've got it now in a JPEG. And then you go to this jigsaw site and you upload the JPEG. Now, most people for Jigsaws, they upload pictures, but we're uploading text because you've made a JPEG from a Word document, taking a screenshot, so you've got some writing in it. Now, I think teenagers love this. Obviously, you can't use this all the time. You've got to use it sparingly, but teenagers love this. And there can be jigsaws that you've produced and jigsaws that the students have produced. In terms of the ones the teacher has produced, it could be the instructions for homework. And they have to do the jigsaw, complete the jigsaw to find out what the homework is. Or it could be a list of vocab items to learn. Or it could be a grammar task or a vocabulary task. Or a model composition that they can use as guidance when they're writing their own composition. Or a short reading text. Or it could be some tips on how to do exam tasks. The list is endless, I think. I'm sure you can come up with loads of ideas. But that would be that you produce and upload for your students. But they would love to produce them too. They might write their composition. They could do it in handwriting and then take a photo, or they could type it into a Word document and then take a screenshot, or turn it into a JPEG. It could be a text and an image. It could be a recipe. It could be song lyrics. It could be a screenshot of some online text, set of instructions, whatever it is. And they could then share it with the other students. The list really is endless. And in the PDF that we'll send you, there's a link. You can probably copy and paste it from the PDF. If not, I think you'll have to type it in. But you can see, you'll try and unscramble my jigsaw. Sometimes they're not easy, actually. I think with this one, I might have chosen too many pieces. So for your jigsaws, you might want to choose fewer pieces, like 10 or 15 pieces may well be enough, but have a look at that and you can work that out for yourself. So that's 45 minutes. We're out of time, basically. I just want to leave you with some final questions. We're not going to talk about these now, but I will give you an opportunity for a couple of minutes to ask any questions that you have. But let me just read these out, and then you can think about these in your own time. How important do you think personalization is in ELT exam preparation classes? How easy or difficult do you think it is to incorporate it into lessons and homework? And now that we've done this webinar, do you think that you'll try to incorporate more personalization into your lessons? So that's all I want to say. I do hope you found that useful. We've had 238 people in the room, which is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all very, very much for coming. If anyone has any final comments or questions, please do post them into the chat box now. You're very welcome. I'm glad you found it useful. Personalization motivates children. I absolutely agree. I couldn't agree more. You're going to try, I can't actually see your names, going too quickly, but you're going to try it. Fantastic. Yes, I agree that some parents do have an issue with gadgets and technology. I'm very aware that that's an issue, and we do have to be careful with that completely. Good, I am glad you found it useful. You are all very, very welcome. Right, I'm going to hand back now. I'm going to say goodbye to you all, and I'll see you all again very soon, I hope. Bye for now.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much for so many ideas and
You're
for a
very
wonderful
welcome.
webinar. Thank you
Good.
very much.
You're very welcome. Bye for now.
Bye for now. Thank you. Шановні колеги, зараз в чаті з'явиться два посилання для завантаження сертифікату, та вже з'явилося, та PDF-презентації даного вебінару. Будь ласка, пройдіть за даними посиланнями, щоб мати змогу їх завантажити. Перший – це сертифікат, другий – презентація. Дякуємо всім за участь, за активну участь у сьогоднішньому вебінарі. Будь ласка, ви можете завантажити сертифікат та презентацію за посиланнями, які з'явилися зараз в чаті.